The Battle of Mount Carmel. Elijah and the prophets of Baal. The smell of burned flesh stayed on the mountain long after the fire went out. Not animal flesh. Human flesh. And the screams from that valley below Mount Carmel still visit me in dreams. I was there the day Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal. Most people tell the story like it was glorious. They leave out the fear. They leave out the smoke. And they never tell you what it felt like standing close enough to hear men beg for their lives. I was 17 then. A water carrier for soldiers serving under King Ahab. There had been no real rain for years. Crops failed. Animals died in fields. Children walked around with swollen stomachs from hunger. People blamed everybody. Some blamed God. Some blamed the king. Others blamed Elijah. By then Elijah already felt more like a ghost story than a man. People whispered his name carefully. They said he could stop rain with words. Some believed ravens fed him in the wilderness. Others believed he was cursed. The morning we climbed Mount Carmel, the air already felt wrong. Too still. Thousands of people gathered there. Soldiers. Priests. Villagers. Hungry people hoping to see something that might end the drought. Then I saw the prophets of Baal. Hundreds of them. Dressed in dark robes stained with old blood. Some had cuts already carved into their arms before the ceremony even started. And standing across from all of them was one man. Elijah. He looked ordinary. That was the strange part. Thin. Dusty clothes. Tired eyes. Not some shining holy man. Just a hard-looking old prophet staring at everyone like he was already disappointed. King Ahab sat nearby surrounded by guards, but even he looked nervous. Nobody trusted what would happen next. Elijah stepped forward and shouted so everybody could hear. "How long will you follow two gods?" Nobody answered him. Not one person. Even the wind seemed dead. Then Elijah explained the challenge. 2 altars. 2 sacrifices. No fire. The God who answered by fire would be the true God. The crowd liked the idea immediately because people were desperate. Hungry people always want signs. The prophets of Baal went first. I remember how confident they looked early in the morning. Laughing. Smiling. Certain Baal would answer. They prepared the bull carefully and placed it on the altar. Then they started praying. At first it sounded normal. Chanting. Singing. Hands lifted toward the sky. Hours passed. Nothing happened. The sun climbed higher. Heat covered the mountain. Sweat poured from everybody. Still nothing. Then the prophets changed. Their prayers became louder. More desperate. Some began shaking violently while screaming Baal's name. One man slammed his own forehead against the stones until blood ran down his face. Still no fire. The crowd started whispering nervously. Then Elijah mocked them. I remember people gasping when he did it. "Maybe your God is asleep," he shouted. Some laughed nervously. The prophets became furious. That was when things turned ugly. They pulled out knives. At first I thought they were threatening Elijah. But no. They cut themselves. Arms. Chests. Faces. Blood splashed onto the altar stones while they screamed louder and louder. I had seen injured soldiers before, but this was different. These men looked possessed. Some rolled on the ground crying. Others clawed their own skin open while begging Baal to answer. The smell of blood mixed with sweat under the hot sun. Still nothing happened. No fire. No voice. Nothing. By afternoon the mountain felt cursed. Even the crowd grew quiet. Children hid behind parents. Soldiers gripped spears tightly. Nobody smiled anymore. Then Elijah moved. Calmly. Slowly. Like he already knew how this would end. He repaired an old altar with 12 stones. Then he placed wood and the sacrifice on top. But then he did something strange. He ordered water poured over everything. Buckets and buckets of water. Over the sacrifice. Over the wood. Over the stones. Water filled the trench around the altar. People started murmuring. Some thought the old prophet had finally gone mad. Even I remember thinking. Fire can't burn soaked wood. Then Elijah stepped forward alone. No screaming. No dancing. No cutting himself. He simply lifted his face toward the sky and prayed quietly. I could not hear every word from where I stood. But I remember the silence after. A horrible silence. The entire mountain seemed to stop breathing. Then it happened. I do not care if people believe me anymore. I know what I saw. Something fell from the sky. Not normal lightning. I have seen lightning many times since then. This was different. White fire exploded onto the altar with a sound so loud people dropped to the ground screaming. Heat slammed into my face instantly. The sacrifice vanished almost immediately. Then the wood burned. Then the stones themselves cracked apart glowing orange. Even the water in the trench disappeared in steam. People around me started crying and shouting prayers. Others simply stared in horror. Because deep down we all knew the same thing. Whatever answered Elijah was real. And it was terrifying. Then Elijah shouted something to the crowd. Seize the prophets of Baal. Everything turned violent immediately. Soldiers rushed forward. The crowd joined them. The prophets tried to run. Some fell screaming down the rocky slopes. Others begged for mercy. Nobody listened. I followed because everyone else did. Down below the mountain near the river, the executions started. One after another. I will not describe everything. I do not want to remember everything. But I still hear the sounds. Men crying. Bodies falling. Steel hitting flesh. The river turned red in places before sunset. And Elijah watched all of it with cold eyes. That frightened me more than the fire. Because before that day I thought prophets were gentle men. But Elijah looked like someone carrying something heavy and terrible inside him.